in your book, on page 301, you talk about clearing out your kitchen.
Mm.
Now, I'm well aware when I asked this question that if you were clearing out my kitchen, you'd first throw out all of the ultra processed foods.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'd want you to do whatever's in my best interest.
I'd be gentle.
Okay. Next, all sources of wheat and gluten is point number 2.
Yeah.
All sources of gluten. That's all my bread gone.
Yeah. Well,
my noodles are going to go as well.
I think that my stance has softened a little bit since I wrote that.
I like the savage. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Sources of industrial grade emulsifiers. What is an industrial grade emulsifier and why has it got to go?
Yeah. So specifically in the book, we call out polysorbate 80 and carboxymethylcellulose, which are synthetic emulsifiers that are used to create pleasing mouthfeels in foods, usually combine hydrophilic and hydrophobic substances, so oil and water, or fatty substances and a more aqueous solution. And so the archetypes of those foods would be nut milks and ice creams. And what they've shown in animal models, to be clear,
salad dressings and stuff as well.
Yeah, salad dressings. What they've shown in animal models is that those substances degrade the mucosa, this like really important lining that separates the inner contents of our GI tract from our gut epithelial cells, which, there's a chapter in Genius Foods that I'm very proud of on the gut microbiome, all the new science surrounding the gut microbiome and how, the gut-brain axis really in many ways influences not just brain function, but might have an effect on our predilection to disease. And so anything that inflames the gut isn't like Vegas. Like what happens in the gut doesn't necessarily stay in the gut. And so these two compounds were shown in animal models to have a profound inflammatory effect on the gut. And so I recommend looking out for them and avoiding them. Now, they're also a sort of a proxy or surrogate, if you will, for ultra-processed foods. Like ultra-processed foods are going to have those two compounds in them as opposed to fresh foods. So the dose makes the poison, but yeah, I would recommend avoiding them because that study was like pretty eye-opening, and the consumption of those two compounds, I would say, probably worth avoiding.
I'm looking at this list of stuff that you've asked me to check out my kitchen, and there's a lot of things here that are currently in my kitchen. Beverages, fruit juice. Been a big fruit juice drinker my whole life. When I was younger, they told me that orange juice was healthy. I was guzzling orange juice, thinking I was doing my body a huge service in doing so. And then over time, I've come to learn from having conversations like this that these fruit juices, I thought when I had like a fruit smoothie, I thought I was like, I was paying homage to my body. But I've come to learn that I was probably doing my body a disservice in many respects because of the sugar, the available sugar content.
I mean, you can squeeze the fruit sugar from 5-6 oranges in one glass of orange juice. I mean, think about it. The last time you ate a whole apple, did you feel afterwards that you wanted to go and eat another apple?
No, I mean, I only ever eat one apple at a time.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason for that is probably that whole fruit is self-limiting because
it fills you a bit more
it fills you a bit more. Yeah. First of all, you're eating it. There's a speed at which you're eating it that's a lot slower than when you drink the fruit juice. So it takes a lot, it allows your body, your stomach to realize that it now has food in it to turn off some of those hunger signals like the hormone ghrelin. You also, when you chew it, you leave large particles of the apple that might take, an hour to fully digest. The food matrix has fiber in it, like the fiber from that apple. So it slows the transit of that sugar. It slows it blunts basically the blood sugar spike. You're also getting lots of water along with the sugar that you're consuming when you consume that apple. It's a lot different when you're just drinking juice. It's a lot easier to get the fruit sugar from if you're drinking apple juice, for example, you can easily drink the sugar of 5-6 apples in one glass. But after eating even the most delicious Honeycrisp apple, which I love, it's like one of my favorite foods, I've never felt the need to go and get another one. The way that when I'm eating tortilla chips, while I'm chewing on one tortilla chip, I'm already, lusting after the one that's in my hands, right? I'm not even like focused on the one that's in my mouth. And so,
why is that? I'm like that with so many foods. Like, if I have one Pringle, it's going to take a lot to stop me getting to the bottom.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's like suddenly I become a Pringle addict. And I've always wondered why that is, because, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, I have one, I have two, I have three. Okay, we're done.
Yeah.
But the Pringles, I'll get to the bottom. Unless I'm in a social situation where I feel slightly embarrassed by eating an entire tube of Pringles.
Well, it's Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. That is a truism with scientific backing. We know that Pringles are ultra processed. We know that they're minimally satiating. There are 3 characteristics that make a food satiating, and Pringles lack all of them. So one is protein. Protein is the most satiating of the macronutrients. So for anybody struggling with hunger, pangs, or whatever, prioritize protein in your diet. Increase the amount of protein that you're consuming. For a person with healthy kidneys, there is absolutely nothing to worry about with regard to high protein consumption. It's the most satiating macronutrient, and it is a really important macronutrient for nourishing our musculature, and ultimately assuaging our hunger. When you eat more protein, you eat less carbs and fat, and carbs and fat are energy. Protein it's very difficult for your body to store protein. Your body doesn't want to store. There's so many uses for protein in your body, whether it's to create neurotransmitters or to rebuild your muscle tissue or your bones or ligaments, to create enzymes. Protein has so many roles in the body. Carbs and fat, for the most part, are just energy. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. That's not to say that carbohydrates are bad, by the way, because a lot of people will hear that and say, oh, I could get by on 0 carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are important for optimizing hormones, for optimizing exercise performance, but there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. It's essentially energy. And so too is fat. Fat is energy as well. We have a minimal daily requirement for essential fats. And we see that higher fat can support energy. As I mentioned, you don't want to go low fat because fat supports hormone production. We see that people on low-fat diets tend to have lower testosterone. It also facilitates the absorption of very important fat-soluble nutrients like vitamins A, E, D, and K, and various fat-soluble plant compounds. But it's carbohydrates and fat that are energy, very easily stored by the body. If we can easily store carbohydrates in our liver as sugar, glycogen, and in our musculature, and we can easily store fat in fat. So protein, very difficult to store. So that's the first factor that makes a food satiating. Pringles are a low protein food. The second factor is fiber. Pringles are largely devoid of fiber. Fiber slows, like we saw in the apple example, it slows the transit of food in the stomach. It makes us feel more satiated. It also absorbs water, and it mechanically stretches out the stomach, which turns off certain hunger hormones like ghrelin, for example.
So good for weight loss.
Yeah, it's good for weight loss to prioritize protein and fiber, dietary fiber. And then water. So water is the number one enemy of shelf stability. And so ultra-processed foods, they want long shelf lives. That's key to a profitable ultra-processed food product, right? It can be shipped overseas. It can stay for months on the shelf. Very little waste. And so products like Pringles, devoid of water, they're completely dehydrated, right? And water, sometimes when we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. It's just that those wires are getting sort of crossed and miscommunicated. But your average hunter-gatherer didn't have access to, running water. They couldn't just pop into their local gas station and buy bottled water. Where did a hunter-gatherer find water when it wasn't readily available? They would get it from food. They would get it from fruits and vegetables, and even animal products are a good source of hydration. So oftentimes when we think that we're hungry, we just need a little bit of hydration. So all those 3 factors, the protein, the fiber, and the hydration, are all severely lacking in Pringles and other ultra processed foods. Not to call it specifically Pringles.
Yeah.
But these kinds of foods that we now consume to our detriment today in the 21st century would have potentially saved the life of a hunter-gatherer, one of our ancestors, back prior to the ubiquity of food stability. So, yeah, not to hate on your Pringles addiction.
No, it's fine. They're out. If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.